Hi, everybody. I'm back again after a long time. I'm trying to make this a consistent thing, probably on Sundays about this time. I am Rhonda Lee Jones, and welcome to my channel. I encourage artists, entrepreneurs, and visionaries to do their thing, do their work, go out there and do what makes them happy. And my intention is to sort of hit a different topic every week that could, potentially stop us from living in our purpose. Um, so this week I'm talking about doing it anyway, even when it doesn't feel like it's working. Now, that's not that's not to say don't change, don't pivot when it's time to pivot. We'll talk about all that stuff in a later episode. But when, for instance, we my theater group and I'm with Misfit, the local Augusta, Georgia Misfit Theater, and we do a production of the Rocky Horror Show every year. And this year we had so many things going on. We had a hurricane during all of that. But I remember we have Monday night rehearsals, and I remember one week I didn't want to go. I thought we don't have enough rehearsals for this year. We just had I think this was before the hurricane even hit. I just thought, I don't know if anything I'm doing is working, but I went, because I also know that for every production you have those rehearsals that you go to that don't seem like it doesn't seem like it's working. It doesn't seem like things are coming together. It doesn't seem like things are going to come together. It seems like I'm having an off night. It seems like I had an off night last week. It seems like, everybody's going to see me doing this really badly, and I don't want to go because of that. But I also know that's part of the process, no matter what you're doing creatively, and that no matter what you're doing in life, honestly, how many days do you not want to go to work because you don't feel like you can do it right that day? You don't feel like you know what you're doing today. And it's so important for you to do it anyway on those days during those rehearsals, because I tell you what happened well, for one thing, I went to rehearsal that night and really loved seeing everybody and really loved being my character and loved being in the theater. So sometimes you enjoy it. You enjoy it anyway, and it's a better time than you thought. And in my mind, it wasn't that great a rehearsal. I think everybody was having an off night, which is kind of a bonding experience, in itself. So, but I tell you what happened. If we hadn't gone that night, if we hadn't done it that night, we wouldn't have had the awesome rehearsal the following week that we had. So keep that in mind when on the days when it doesn't feel like there's a crow. The crows agree. When on those days when it doesn't feel like it's working, you're actually laying the groundwork for a future session, maybe the next session, when it's going to really come together because you sat down and you did the work. When it didn't feel like it was flowing. You don't necessarily do it for that flow state that's so wonderful. Maybe that's what got you into it, but 95% of your experience isn't going to be that. But but what happened at the end of all of these rehearsals and the hurricane and just everything that happened was we put on a great show. And that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't been consistently showing up and putting in the work and surprising ourselves, about how we were doing anyway. You don't always know. You don't always know. You don't always know how well you're doing, honestly. And especially for theater actors know this. You can't even see you can't even see the finished product. You never see it. You just have to go on the feedback. You have to decide based on how it feels, what people say, maybe little clips you see. Even if you see a video of your work, it still doesn't really capture what you did. So just keep that in mind. And even I heard someone from a that takes place in a that goes to a support group, say, the other people there are there to tell you how well you're doing, not just to help you when you're messing up, but also to remind you how far you've come. So on those days when it doesn't feel like it's working, you may be doing a great job, and just your inner game just isn't gaming that day. But you do it anyway. You do it when it feels bad. Do it when you don't feel anything. Do it when your heart is broken. Do it. That's not to say you shouldn't take breaks and practice self-care. Don't let yourself burn out, but don't do it just because you feel sad, or don't do it just because you feel like you're not doing a good job that day. You don't know. You really don't know. Maybe you show up and you're the reason that that castmate or that coworker can make it through the day, and they never tell you that. You know, you don't always know. You don't always know what you're doing. Well, I mean, we don't always know what we're doing, but we don't always know when we're doing a good job. Or you might be focused on this area that you're not doing a good job in yet. But meanwhile, you're kicking butt over here in this other area. So it's very there's so much to think about. There's so much to think about. So be a rebel and do it anyway on those days when you just don't want to. You don't know, what's going to happen. Consistency is key. Consistency is everything, really. Like in real estate, it's location, location, location. In creativity, in your work, and that's showing up as a parent as well. A parent can't exactly not go to work that day. Um, And I know that so many parents that I've known are really, they're like, I don't know, I'm not doing this right. I'm going to screw up my kids, etc., etc. And those are generally the parents who are doing the best jobs from what I've observed of my friends over the years, and how I have observed those children growing up. Um, the ones who ask the questions, the ones who are hardest on themselves, seem to be the ones who are doing the best job. So that may be something you want to consider too. If you're being hard on yourself, it's because you're noticing things. If you're aware, if you have clarity and awareness, that's a wonderful thing. That is a wonderful tool, but it doesn't always feel good. So keep that in mind as well. So just do it anyway. Yeah, do it anyway and see what happens. Look at it as a giant experiment. I'm gonna go and do this thing and see what happens. Because I tell you, you can surprise yourself. I have a hard time. Here's here's one of my tells. I have a hard time putting together costumes for characters. I always resist doing that. I always think I don't see how this is going to work. I'm just getting this one thing. How's that going to? But it stacks up over time. And I've noticed that in order to move toward goals, instead of waiting until I have a huge chunk of time, got 2 hours to do it, I feel like my perfect life, I am into it for 2 hours at a time or an hour at a time, and I'm in the flow state, and I'm really, I'm really intensely working, and that is not how I get it done normally. Normally it's I have 10 seconds right now, to learn this thing, or I can pick up 3 items of clothing and put it away, before I go do something else. But if you do that consistently, before you know it, the thing is done. I've surprised myself so many times just doing a piece of it, and I accidentally get the thing done, in a short amount of time, because I'm not trying to be this perfect worker, for myself. I'm just doing it. I'm just doing what I can. Excuse me, when I can. And it works. It works for me. When my phone has a thing where it tells me every week what my screen time is. And sometimes those numbers in the past have been pretty high, and I thought, how did that even happen? I didn't see all that time slipping out of my hand. It's just a few minutes here and there. What if you treated your goals like your screen time, and did it Uh, maybe maybe studying your lines, or maybe working on your business, your side hustle, or doing the thing, the important thing that's really scary and you want to do well at. What if you treated that like your screen time and that was your go-to activity? You know, you can, if you're trying to write something, for instance, you can use Google Docs on your phone. What if you open up Google Docs to work on that project every time you were bored, or at a, wherever you look at Instagram, instead of looking at Instagram? What if you did that? At the end of the week, you've put, I don't know, 5 hours into it that you wouldn't have otherwise. So, I mean, that's just, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to feel like doing it. Do it anyway. You don't have to live up to that perfect version of yourself in your head, is what I'm saying. You know, um, so often I make things harder than they actually are, you know, because, and I used to disappoint myself, because when I actually sat down to work, it didn't look like it looked in my head. And then I would refuse to do it unless I could make it look like it looked in my head. I mean, that's sounds strange when I say that out loud, but that's what we're doing to ourselves all the time. When you develop the ability to catch your thoughts as you're thinking them, you think some pretty strange things sometimes. I know, because I make that a practice, an awareness practice of actually catching what I'm saying to myself. And um, and I try to find the truth, because so many of the things that we say to ourselves aren't true. Like, it's not going to count unless I can sit there and focus for 2 hours. I, when have I focused for 2 hours at a time this week? I have not. But in being able to focus for 10 or 20 minutes at a time, or maybe even 2 minutes at a time, sometimes I solve a problem, or I, you know, I I solve a problem, or I just get that number of words written, or I get this amount of things done in that amount of time. And honestly, at the end of all that, sometimes I have to remind myself that I did that, because it still feels like it's hanging over my head, because I'm used to it hanging over my head. I have to convince myself that I actually did it and it's done, and I can go on to the next thing now. And it's not comfortable. It's not a comfortable space to be in my head. But if you wait until it's comfortable, it's probably not going to get done. It's probably not. So do it anyway, even though you don't feel like doing it, and see what happens. Just, do that for a week with something. Oh, here's your I like to have an exercise for these things. So here's your assignment, your exercise for the week. I'm going to think of it on the fly here. Write down something that you really want to get done. Okay. Whatever it is, it can be something creative. It can be getting the laundry off the floor. It can be whatever. And okay, what is it? And ask yourself, what is standing in the way? How do you envision doing it, for one thing? When you think of actually getting it done, what does that look like in your head? And the next part of it is, ask yourself, what can I do right now to move toward that? Not the to what can I do toward getting the thing done? Not living up to whatever the picture is in your head. What can I do right now? Right now. Don't say, "Oh, I'm running out the door right now. I can't do anything." If you have 5 minutes, or 2 minutes, pick up one item. What can I do to move toward that? It's progress, not perfection. Practice progress, not perfection this week, and see what happens. You know, you might be surprised. I'll come next week with a better exercise for you, that I have written ahead of time. Also, I want to mention that I'm not a therapist. I'm not any sort of professional um, physician or anything like that. I am just showing up and telling you what works for me. That's all. I'm just a friend sharing with you. That is all I'm doing. You know, if you need therapy, go get therapy. If you need to hire a professional for something, go do that. But yeah, that's my little disclaimer. One day I'll have a better one, I'm sure. But yeah, one day it'll all be better. But this is what I'm doing today with this channel. This is what I was able to do today. And I sort of almost solved my lighting problem just by going outside. So anyway, I have to put this back on. Thank you for checking out my video. I'm Rhonda Lee Jones, and I do stuff, creative stuff, and that will be better one day too. Bye. Love you.